Hello everyone, Kurt over here, and welcome back to another episode from Fiore Labs. Today we're going to be discussing Fiore's high guard, the Posta Donna Soprana, which he typically depicts with having the sword not up in the air but along the backside of his body, and his left arm either in front of his face or opening in some form or fashion. The depiction isn't necessarily all that clear as far as to what exactly he's doing there, but I'm going to be playing with this here as best as possible and kind of seeing what this happens and what kind of benefits it. So with that being the case, we're just going to kick into this here today and see what we find out.
The Posta di Donna Soprana is a high guard that appears to conceal the sword behind one's back. Using both turns of the feet, forward and back, we can see that the sword stays concealed. All swords have a balance of their own, and assuming some high guards, we may feel it pull us backwards and feel the tension in our lower back. This is something that the Posta di Donna Soprana combats. By assuming a high guard, the flat of the blade rests along our backside. In this, its balance becomes one with our center of gravity. By keeping the sword aligned to our back, we are not taxed with cutting outwards. We can simply just extend our arms out towards our target to perform cutting actions. There are a few things in which Fiore advises about this position. The first one we're going to talk about here is about the movement itself. Specifically, he states that you can utilize an offline accrescimento followed by a cross-line pass to find an opponent open. This kind of footwork allows us to step offline and intercept a blow before it becomes terminal in the center line of posta longa. By doing so, we're able to intercept and reclaim the line with minimal effort of our upper body. Although the offline pass does allow for achieve the center line, I have often observed that just utilizing a accrescimento is enough. There are 7 blows in Fiore's system, and he breaks them down into 4 categories. The first are your fendente, which come from above. The second are the sottani, which come from below. The mazzani may be struck horizontally, and they come between the neck and the knees. The final one is the thrust. Fiore tells us that his position of Posta di Donna can execute all of these actions. In practicing these cuts, I observe that from the right side, I utilize a volta stabile where my weight is shifted towards the back. By shifting my weight forward with the volta stabile, I notice that my arms carry the sword forward and go into the target. Striking from the left side is different and requires that my weight is forward. I now have myself placed in a forward position and volta stabile backwards to allow the sword to carry to a rearmost position. As effective as this is in blows, it allows for the projection of the thrust to also be very devastating. Now with shifting my weight forward and backwards, I can project towards the target and countercut backwards and set up for another attack. This means that either side of me I can project and create different type of cutting combinations which allow me to flow between different type of situations. Making these 7 blows is not limited to the volta stabile. In fact, using mezzovolta of my feet, I'm able to play on either side and create different effects and combinations against an opponent. Fiore's last piece of advice that he talks about this guard position is that it is good at breaking other positions. The big thing about combinations means I can take strike vectors, break to one side, and then cut around to a different area. A final observation I have about this position is how easily it transitions into other posta and guards. Because the sword is so aligned to my center of gravity, I'm able to rotate and move it around with such ease that allows transitions to other targets and threats to be very easy. Regardless of the situation, I rotate the hips, the feet, and the sword together in order to accommodate different directions. Once again, I believe this is made possible because the sword is orbiting around me like a planet would, and I'm able to keep it with the flow of my form.
So you can see with the video, it's a very dynamic position, and one that I, in previous years, did not give a lot of respect and credence to, and that unfortunately I did not have the perspective I have today in regards to the works of what Fiore's putting out there. Just for this today, I wanted to talk about his high guard, his alla Soprana, and the one where his sword is behind him. In his works, he illustrates two other guards of Posta di Donna. He has the one where it's on the shoulder, and then you have the other one where it's on the left side. Typically, when it's on the right shoulder, it's either the Posta di Donna di Strezza or Distra, and then on the left side is the Posta di Donna di Sinistra, so the left. Personally, I didn't play between the three of these yet because that might be another video coming up here, because just this position alone, I automatically found myself, as I'm coming through, utilizing this posture that you're coming into. And very similar to like one of the last videos I put out there in regards to the boar's tusk, the mezza porta di ferro, and the dente di cingaro and the mezzodente di cingaro. I see them as perspectives of utilizing and shifting off into different lines. Perhaps he wants this too, perhaps he doesn't, who knows? But what I do know is that having utilized the Soprana variant of Posta di Donna, I've noticed just how easily I can transition into and out of right side fighting and left side fighting with relative ease. Like I said in there, the balance of the sword is aligned with my hips, so I don't have a lot of effort that I have to really do as far as extending the sword out there and causing damage or anything like that. It's relatively easy. The biggest inhibitor for me in sparring is usually my mask. And that's because my mask is a little bit higher, safety considerations, of course. But those are things that you may not have had when you don't have like an extra layer of protection on over here. However, when you're talking about wearing helmets, this also could be a factor. And I plan to do all these guards in the future with wearing my harness to kind of play and see what I find, just using the sword. And we'll talk about that in a later video. But again, like I said, for this one, I wanted to focus on the Soprana and not the right side or left side Posta di Donna, because I believe by shifting and playing and doing as Fiore says, which this thing can go and utilize all seven blows, you pass through those in some form or fashion anyway, just by turning the feet and causing different actions. So that's the biggest finds I had about this right here. Again, in sparring, this is a devastating posture, which is really, 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 really effective as far as, like he says, about it breaks other guards. It is very effective, especially utilizing the offline step and then passing after that. These both really excel in those areas, and it's a lot of fun to utilize and kind of tinker around with. So anyway, that's going to conclude today's video here. As always, like and subscribe, share, leave a comment below. I know that Fiore is not the only one out there that holds a guard where the sword is on his back. You see this in other meisters out there, and if you are from those other schools, please leave a comment below. Tell me what you're learning in your treatises out there. Tell me what the comparisons are. What are you seeing with these things? Maybe you do Figueredo, where you do the montante, the long two-handed swords, and maybe there's a position here that you're finding also that's very similar here. Maybe there's a way that this all ties together. I don't know. I'm curious, though, with what you have to say out there, and I'm also curious about your observations. And if you are a Fiorist out there, when are you using this guard? How are you using this guard? And what successes and failures or struggles are you finding out there when it comes down to employing it in sparring or in just practice? So leave a comment below. Hit me up on Facebook. I'm there for anyone to find out on this right here. And as always, everybody, please stay safe out there. Train well and fight on. I will see you in the next video.